Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the National Arts Council's Young Artist Empowerment webinar. Today's roundtable discussion will be focused on highlighting the challenges that are facing young artists today. And our hope is that through our exchange, we can find possible solutions or arrive at ideas, so spark ideas that will make those challenges seem slightly less insurmountable and inspire continued participation in the arts sector. Before we dive right in, I would first like to thank all of you joining on the Facebook live stream on the NAC's Facebook page. Please feel free to post any questions or comments that you may have, and we look forward to your input in the Q&A section, which will follow at the end of this webinar. Please also bear with us. I'm sure you're all struggling with the effects of the load shedding. So if one of the panelists suddenly disappears, please know that we are making every effort to get them back online and back into the network. So please just bear with us for that. And now I would like to acquaint you with the panel members for today. I will be facilitating the discussion, and my name is Anitra Darvel. While I consider myself to be an arts educator, I did cut my teeth as a musical theatre performer, so I was dancing, acting and singing for my supper, literally. So I do understand the experience of the freelance life. Then within the entertainment industry, I graduated from performer and went on to be choreographer and director, and simultaneously found myself in the academic sphere. I have lectured in the dance, drama and musical theatre departments at Tshwane University of Technology, the University of Pretoria and Oakfields College. A few years ago, I founded the Johannesburg Academy for Theatre Arts, or JATA as we like to call it, which is focused on quality tuition for children, teens and for young people in all aspects of the performing arts. And now I would like to hand you over to Sizwe Mondlane, who is also joining us today. Sizwe is a singer and a choir conductor, as well as a business graduate and arts manager, which is a powerful combination. So Sizwe, the floor is yours.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Anitra. It's such a privilege, actually, to be part of this discussion because these are such relevant topics. So, yeah, my name is Sizwe, as I've been introduced. I am the choir conductor for the African repertoire for the University of Johannesburg Choir. I also have my own male chamber choir called Veni Cantare. And I also have a high school choir, well, a few high school choirs. And I'm currently doing my BMAS with the University of South Africa. And yeah, and I think that I'm definitely a musician, love singing. We're studying for it now. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Sizwe. And now I'm going to introduce someone who needs absolutely no introduction whatsoever at all. We're very pleased to welcome the popular South African television celebrity, Lebohang Mutunzi. So Lebohang, over to you.
Hi everyone, and thank you Anitra for the beautiful introduction. I'm Lebohang Mutunzi. I'm a TV, film and theatre actress, and I teach drama as well, specifically children's theatre. I've worked with the Soweto Theatre, and now I'm currently working with Timbatu in the Valley at Victoria Yachts. And yeah, that's what I do.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lebohang. We're also privileged to have with us Masaka Mona. Masaka hails from Mpumalanga, and he is a social commentator, an educator, as well as an entertainer. So take it away.
Sanbonan Dumelang Abisheni, Vitramina Imemsaka, as they've just recently introduced me. She is correct. I am all of those things. I'm also currently pursuing my PhD in decolonizing education, and I have a particular interest in terms of finding the link between academia and arts, or rather using the arts to deal with concepts that academia usually would have limits in terms of reaching different types of communities. Nyabong.
Thank you, Masaka. We now move on to Lindokukhle Kubeka, who is an entrepreneur and community advancement servant. He is a real mover and shaker. Lindokukhle was among the top 9 young community shapers in South Africa in 2017, as well as being named one of the top 100 Mandelas of the future as compiled by News 24 in 2019. So please tell us about yourself, Linda Kukle.
Oh, greetings, and thank you, Anita. Well, I'm a social entrepreneur, a founder of a community-based non-profit organization called Linda Kukle Foundation, an organization with the mandate of developing all remote communities within the perimeters of Free State. That's northern part of Free State. Well, our projects, campaigns, and programs are co-designed to address the need under the following aspect: that's arts and culture, education, as well as youth empowerment as a whole. So that's precisely what we do. And thank you.
Thank you, Linda Kukle. Right, so now I'm sure that all of you that are watching, all of us here, we can all agree that even before the pandemic, before COVID, the barriers that we're facing young artists entering the arts sector have always been immense. And then now added to that, we had the complete decimation of the arts and the entertainment industry. So the COVID-19 restrictions have isolated and marginalized many artists and even forced established artists to leave the industry completely. In light of this current economic situation, and it seems to have just a very bleak outlook for the young artists, the question needs to be, how can we reframe this struggle to survive into something where we can actually learn to thrive in our own artistic spaces? So as I said, I'm an arts educator, and I'm a firm believer in solid training and education and continuing education. And I think that there are a lot of lay people out there who just don't understand what it is that we do as artists. I think people seem to think we have fun or it can be a hobby, so they don't understand the hours that go into honing our craft. But then on the other hand, a lot of artists seem to just sit back and just wait for their ship to come in. And I think that there needs to be an understanding that when your ship comes in, you need to be standing there ready, waiting at the harbor with your suitcase packed, ready to climb on board. And the process of packing your bag is through education. So perhaps, Musaka, you can bring your expertise to bear here on the role of education in the arts and also access to education, which I know is a problem for many.
Thanks, Anitra. Let me start by just dispelling this myth that, education means going to a fancy university that's very expensive. So that's not necessarily what education is. For artists, we tend to be okay with just saying I have the gift or the talent, and that's it. I want to quote one of my friends who's an actor, who uses this example that if you board a flight and the pilot, welcomes you on board, blah blah blah, and then you find out that but the pilot has never been, studied anywhere. How are you going to feel, just before the flight takes off, And then he said, so why are we okay that we can pursue careers in the arts, but don't really give much attention to upskilling ourselves, finding out about what avenues are there for you to be developed. So you don't necessarily need to go to college, university. It's great if you do, you should, if you have the resources to. But I'm saying find a mentor, with access to social media. Go to YouTube and learn about some of the field in which you think you are located as an artist, as opposed to saying, for example, I'm a singer, and you don't even know what a chord is, but you have access to YouTube. Nonetheless, in terms of at the macro level, I do think that, look, the education space has to be one that's very conducive to people who are gifted in the arts. And as a country, we are not yet there. I think we are all judged. Everyone gets judged by their ability to climb a tree, whether you're a fish or whether you're a monkey, which is so I really think those who are activists in the educational space, we need to just work together to be able to acknowledge the arts, and not just something that is done on the side, but actually it's something that's key to human survival. So it's not an either or. In fact, I would argue that life in itself is an art form. So how do you then separate it from such an important thing such as education? Thanks.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Osaka. And absolutely, I agree that you can find that education anywhere. We can find it in our communities. And like you said, with a mentor. And I think that artists also need to learn that the art, it's a safe space. We need to support each other and create those spaces in our communities where it's safe to go and learn and hone your craft. And perhaps, yeah, Linda Kuchle, you could come on board here and let us know what's happening with your foundation, because I know you're very active in the community. So would you like to expand on that for us?
Okay, thank you, Anita. Thank you. Okay, like with us, it's a bit complex because now, like the situations that we encounter on day-to-day basis, because now simply because of in having to serve remote communities. You know, these are the people who are neglected. These are the people who are overlooked for the longest time. So now the talent is there, and like obviously it's raw. One that needs some real like polishing and whatnot. Like with my fellow panelists having to alluded on the importance of education. I think it is of paramount importance that the element of education being infused within like the artist or in the art sector, because the art sector as a whole, it's a very, very broad industry, you know, that one can actually make a living out of it. But then one cannot be able to pursue a career within the art space if you are not inclined in terms of education as to which career path that you actually want to follow, like in the future, or that might propel you maybe to your talent. So I think education it's like it's really important, and having to reinforce it more especially amongst these young artists who are slightly like trying to make their way within the internet, like the national print and whatnot. So I think it's very, very, very much important.
That's wonderful. And Linda Cookler, I found it very interesting in your bio that you used the word community advancement servant. And I think this idea of service is fundamental to the arts. I had an old drama teacher many moons ago who always used to compare actors and performers to nurses and to teachers, and those are service industries. And I think the true creative maybe cares less about being famous, although that always does help, but more about serving his own truth or serving their own story. And in so doing, they can serve their audience and serve the community. And I think that's what you're doing there. You're helping other people find their truth and hopefully serve the community in that way. I don't know if you have any comments on that.
Yeah, like that's precisely what we do. I wouldn't really call myself an artist per se, but then I've alluded initially that I would like to call myself a social entrepreneur.
Yeah, I think that's my connection. Sorry, I think my connection, I think I was dropping out there, which is awkward. Okay. Sorry, I missed if you something. If you said it there, I'm very sorry about that.
Hello.
Okay. Perhaps, Caesar, I'm going to come to you because I did some reading up before today, and I was reading about the UJ Choir, and that you'd planned a whole lot of tours just before lockdown hit, and you had this wonderful tour program, and then, but through that process, I believe something great came out of it. So perhaps you can share with us a bit how you managed to navigate the COVID crisis, and maybe some of the positives that came out of that.
Yeah. So our artwork is very people-based. We have to be with each other. And when COVID struck, we had to, I don't know, try adapt. Our hands were cut, our voices were actually cut. So we had to find a way to adapt as to how to maneuver around this thing. But luckily, the year before, the University Choir had recorded the year's repertoire. So we had recorded a lot of music prior to COVID. So what happens is that there's an audition process in the beginning of the year, and then March came, and the COVID pandemic struck, and we were forced. We had many plans. We were supposed to go to the World Choir Games in Belgium in 2019, yes, and that could not happen because there was lockdowns on everywhere, every end. So we had to find ourselves, I don't know, make ourselves useful, if that's a term, and find satisfaction out of that. And what happened was that at the recording of that, it was so weird. The repertoire that the choir sang the year before was so relevant that we decided to make an album out of it. And the album was called When the Earth Stands Still. And to adapt digitally, because people started making virtual choirs, and with our field, our discipline, it's so difficult to sing when we're on Zoom, or you have to phrase together, you have to start together, you have to be in pitch and tune with each other. And that was so impossible. Bless the people that tried to make virtual choirs, but those things sucked tremendously. So the album, When the Earth Stands Still, came out, and it was put out on all digital platforms, and it became, a ray of hope to tell us that we can still do something, even though we feel like, we're disabled, but the music still carries, it carries our calling, carries our purpose. So apart from that, it was really beautiful. It was really beautiful. So that's how we tried, making around.
Fantastic. And I think, like I said, there were lots of negatives, but the one positive from the COVID crisis was that even though we were all isolated in our own little living space, I think the global arts community came together. And there seemed to be a lot of opportunities. A lot of artists started to work in that digital space, which has opened up opportunities not only here but globally, which is one of the things, hopefully young artists can take that. They understand the technology far better than I do, and they can make it work.
Right.
Absolutely. And now I'm sure that a lot of our audience members are waiting in breathless anticipation to hear from you, Lebohang. I thought maybe you could share some of your experience as an artist in South Africa, and the challenges that you've faced, and how you've been sustaining yourself in these times.
Hi, Anitra. It's a very difficult industry, and I think there's only a handful of jobs, and there's so many of us. I mean, people are graduating every year in universities, hoping to be famous, but it really doesn't happen that way. I think I have lost count of the auditions that I've went to and didn't get. But I think if you build a brand that's strong enough, and you keep working on your craft, people will notice you, people will see you. You guys have mentioned virtual platforms, social media is there now, media is playing a big role now. And there are so many platforms that people can hop onto. You can create skits and you put them on social media. There's TikTok, there's Instagram, there's all these platforms that are there. And we all, at the end of the day, we're all telling a story. So nowadays, it doesn't matter if it has to be a theater stage or on TV, So I think if you build a brand that's strong enough and you put your work out there, and people will always critique, people will always talk about your work, but I think that helps you work on the craft and perfect the craft. And also, if you don't chase fame and let fame chase you, then I think you have a good thing going on, because if you've built a brand that's strong enough, then definitely fame will come chasing you. It's a tough industry, but also I think as an artist, you learn to improvise and you learn to be versatile, because there's so many things you can do as an artist. I mean, if you do musical theater, you can sing, you can dance, you can act at the same time. And if if TVs you're seeing and there aren't any jobs, but you've studied drama, you know, you can look into going into workshops, you can look into mentoring young people, teaching them drama. Also, if you know things aren't working, you can start writing and producing your own films and try and find funding. I mean, there's always funding out there. There are a lot of art entities that are there that are giving out funding and are willing to support artists that are producing work. So yeah, find just be versatile and find whatever it is that you have in you, you know, find it and use it as your best advantage.
I think those are fantastic words. That is absolutely, and from what I was getting from you there is, I think to all the young artists out there that you were saying this is not an easy industry. It's really not. It looks like fun to everyone who's watching, but we have to work really, really hard and we have to persevere. And you were talking about being proactive, and you were saying build your brand. And I think yes, the economic climate is not ideal at the moment. It's adverse. It's pushing us all away. But now is not the time to sit back. I think for young artists, you can't just complain, oh, the environment isn't conducive for me to create, but you're still demanding a place at the table. I think in order to have your place at the table, you got to bring something to the table. So tell your story, own your creative, you know, show up every day and work at what you want to work at. And I think if you do that, you then also start to draw like-minded people. So you talk about build your brand, but then you will be building your community of like-minded people. And you know, when they say 4 sticks are stronger than you can't break it, 1 stick you can break. If there's more of you, there's more arms of the octopus to reach out and find that funding or network and get to where you need to be. So surround yourself with positive people and people who have the same ideals as you. So thank you. I hope those young artists were listening to you, because I think you really hit the nail on the head there. I think Caesar would like to jump in here with a comment.
I think just you actually concluded this, bringing Lebohang and Msaka's point on the education and what you can do. It's literally adapting. So it's not enough that you know your talent and you know what you do, and that's about it. You have to now, as an actor or a musician, now you have to learn how technology works, how, if you want to host a virtual event, you need to know financial literacy, because you can't just hope, let me just charge this gig for this much and I'll see what happens. You know, so it just, you and your talent alone cannot make it. You have to open up your mind and be faceted, I guess. But yeah, that's a brilliant point.
Absolutely. Musaka, did I see you waving there? Yes.
Yes, Nkosing Pile Mazibugo, who says a qualified artist normally shares their skill with children through hosting art and design workshops, planning to start teaching art and design. Does that mean they have to study teaching for them to be an art teacher? So I would say yes, and having explained that studying does not always, mean going to a certain sort of formalized institution, but I would say yes, because especially if you say you are a teacher, you carry a certain power, you're molding minds, right? So how you teach has implications to how people think and feel about themselves and what they think they can contribute with towards the arts. But people are not the same, so if you don't have sort of the foundations of what a teacher does, there's a question of how do you then deal with people who are differently gifted, right? So we end up then perpetuating the entire problem of the South African education system, that everyone just fits in the same curriculum. So there are certain foundations that I would say do go and get about what is teaching. There's different teaching approaches for different age groups, for people from different types of social and cultural backgrounds. It's obviously stuff that I won't have time to address now, but definitely I think do go and study to teach. And I'm more than willing after the meeting to share some of the materials just around curriculum design and around some of the foundations about what goes on in teaching. Thank you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. To any of the other panelists, I don't know if anybody else wants to jump in, if there's some other comments that we need to make. We have a little bit of time, I think, before we're supposed to start our Q&A. So anyone?
Sorry, yeah. So I think I know, and it might be a bit cliche to say, but in the midst of everything, they always tell us discipline is the way, but unfortunately, you can't say that enough. You can't stress that enough. Discipline in your craft, discipline in your finances, discipline in just life, and just sometimes because we know how I don't know, the youth, our fellow youth can be, and sometimes you just have to let go of the pressure that you see on social media and apply yourself and just I don't know, just deprive yourself of little pleasures with the focus of the bigger picture that you want. Because if you want satisfaction now, someone said this to me one time that you work your whole life to be an overnight success. So what people see is that you're just there. They're like, where were you? You're just here now. But they don't know how long you actually been pushing, how much you've invested in yourself. And you'll never have a bad investment if you work towards yourself, whether it's education, whether you paid for a class, whether you paid for a course. It's not a bad investment if you did it for yourself. At some point, as Anitra said, the boat will come to the shore and you must just have your bags packed. You must be prepped. Yeah, exactly. Ready. Opportunity will just, exactly. When opportunity presents itself, you're ready. So yeah.
Thanks, Yuswe. And I also feel that I had friends recently, they're producers, they produce children's theatre, and they've managed to make it through COVID, and they were putting on shows at the beginning of this year with a cast and of young actors, and 2 of the 3 young actors weren't very dedicated. I know children's theatre, it's not glamorous. It's early mornings, it's hard work, it's traveling to audiences who are not really listening to you, who were, eating their chappies and their chips and whatever. And it probably didn't fulfill their soul, but the point is they had a job. And I think that's where you're talking about discipline and ethics. They had the opportunity to hone their craft, to every day get on a stage, be it at whatever school, wherever it is, but get on a stage and play those characters. And they didn't take that opportunity. And I'm sure there are lots of our viewers out there saying, but I would have. So I think we need to, buckle down and focus on the discipline and the ethics, and that will get you to where you need to be, and that overnight success, 20 years down the line. Linda Kukle, you've been very quiet. Oh, Lebohang, I see the hand is up.
I was just going to add a little bit that, it's also a very congested industry, and people go according to what's trending, and what I think also what children see on TV is not necessarily what the art is about. We see a lot of different stories every day. But I think if someone is looking into the education aspect of it and the movement aspect of it, it kind of is a total different thing. People just, are looking at the fame part of it and not other avenues. So I think also it's best for artists to educate themselves and also know that it always doesn't end that way. It always doesn't end on TV or being famous or getting to become an international star or things like that. There's so much to it. There's so much to it. There's so many things you can do. Yeah.
Absolutely. I remember when I was first starting out, so many years ago, and there was a big musical on one of the big theatres, and I'd just seen the big star of the musical on the stage, and then I went off the next morning to I think it was a Rama Margarine casting, and I sat down next to this big star, and I was like, oh, he's here. So I think specifically in this country, you have to be prepared to do anything if you need to make pay the bills at the end of the month. So yeah. Linda Cookler. Oh, I think you're on. You might be on mute. I think we can't hear you. Linda Cookler, we can't hear you. You're on mute. I think you're on mute.
His mic is not selected.
Oh,
Please
okay.
select your mic.
Okay. Right. I think we'll definitely come back to that. Maybe it's load shedding strikes again or something. Msaka, I see your hand up again.
Thanks. I just wanted to revisit Lebohang's point about, hey, people graduate, and everyone wants to be famous, and everyone is wants that one slice of bread. Hey, guys, you will queue, to tell you the truth. You will queue, you will die queuing. And the reality is, we need to really change how we set our objectives as artists. You cannot set your objectives based on what you saw on a movie or on TV. You need to be real with yourself and ask really the question of what else is there in my discipline, in my industry. So I'm just going to share, by way of example, the previous project we did. It was called Kulani Arts Project, and one of the key deliverables was to have an arts sort of festival followed by a concert inside the oldest known cave on earth, which is Sutwala Caves, right? So I mean, you don't often think, let's go into a cave and have a theater production. But to what Lebohang is saying, you'll be amazed that brings a lot of other businesses. People need transport to get there. People need accommodation to get there. Chefs need to be hired to be able to cook, and because it's on a mountain, right? We're still doing arts, but if you are going to maybe charge 20 Rand of a ticket for people to access your play, and then 20 people will come, then you will queue. But now someone might not be interested in arts, but they're interested in tourism. We use the arts to actually be able to still engage in that kind of space so that we have our share in the economy. So, and I think that allowed me to actually embrace the idea that as artists, we need to be okay with not treating each other as competition, but rather as collaborators. If you treat others as competition, then that means you must be your own director, your own script writer, at some point your own audience, your own transport, your own. It will not work. Economically, it will not be sustainable. So we need to be able to actually respect the fact that you can't do everything. Anyway, I hope that makes sense. Sorry that I'm shouting at myself. It's me who's wrong.
No, that's an absolutely fantastic point. Again, you've hit the nail on the head there. And I think we're not in, what was that movie, Showgirls, when the one pushes the other one down the stairs? That's not how it happens. We have to support each other. If you do that, there's no show. So, and like you said, you'll end up being the lone one there watching your own production because no one else will be interested. So fantastic. I think there was also recently at the Naledi Theatre Awards, there was a TX Theatre Productions. They're a theatre production house in Tembisa, and they in the last 2 years have produced an amazing amount of work, and it's all community based, and they actually walked off with some of the very coveted Naledi Awards. So it just goes to show they did. They've done fantastic work. So it goes to show you don't have to be in a massive theatre with big sets and costumes and a big budget. You need to think creatively, and that's what we all are. We're creative. So look what's around you. The caves. I mean, who would have thought of that? To find those niches, and then you might find someone who's not really interested in theatre will go to see it because it's in the caves, and next time we'll go, oh, I'm going to go to a theatre because that last production was really great. So it's also about widening our audience base. And I think you're also talking about being multidisciplinary. So if we do that, we also widen our audience base. We bring in other people and show them the magic that is theatre and the entertainment industry and how we touch people. Because that's what we do as artists. We want to just, take it to the people and touch them and change their lives for the better. Sizwe, I think, would you like to comment? I think your mic is off now.
Okay, I'll go after level.
Okay. Lebohang, over to you.
I was just saying that, we need to evolve with the times also, because I think back in the days, theater was the thing, it was a movement. But now the platform has changed. I mean, I'm not saying theater is not there anymore or it's dead, but I'm saying that, times have changed and there's so many platforms right now, so use those platforms. And also there's a lot of forms of theater as well. You can do industrial, you can do forum theater, you can do a lot of things. And I think if we as artists could take those mediums that we have and put them on a social platform, we could be actually making a huge difference. Because I mean, things like playback theater also involves a lot of therapy, um, it goes deep into social issues and things like that, and addressing those social issues and actually helping people. It's not just about telling a story, it's also engaging your audience and making sure that you are um, creating conversation and making a difference. So I think as artists as well, when we are in university and we're learning all about these theater mediums and the styles, we should take that and put that on our social media platforms, on YouTube, on TikTok, and the train moving, keep the spirit alive. Yes.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, you're also talking about educating our audiences. A lot of our audiences don't know that they would absolutely love, not a theatre performance, to be engaged or to hear stories and be involved in that way. And we need to reach those audiences. And it's you young artists that are watching. You know where those gaps are. You can find them and bring them in, because that is going to give you that slice of bread one day, maybe even with some honey on it, Sizwe,
Oh yes, just on part of that point, while slightly almost derailing, it's that the point of under the COVID restrictions and forcing us to adapt. It's that it gave us a chance to also, I don't know, reflect. In as much as it was so terrible, because life pre-COVID was just moving. It was so, there was this, you jump onto the next gig, or if you have a gig, if you don't have a gig, it's just like, if I get money from this one, there'll be another one that's gonna come. I'll just try and keep on. But the moment COVID came, they were few and far in between. It was like, will you even have a gig? So now this comes between, whenever you have to charge your price, you're stuck between, do I charge my worth, or do I just need a paycheck just to get me where I need to be? It's just a lot. And when you have invested in yourself, you're kind of not afraid to charge your prices, because you know how much you invested in yourself, how much you paid for the course, how much you paid for the education. So it literally will always go back to just work on yourself, adapt where we need to adapt, because if we fail to adapt, we will definitely, I guess, become stagnant, and not be able to move. So it also comes with being practical about your things. The amounts, just sit down, have a budget for your own life. Don't work on another gig will come. Act as if I got a gig or I got a paying job, this is what's gonna keep me, and I don't have another one that's coming, and a foreseeable one. And this will help you, I don't know, be savvy. Unfortunately, we can't be living lavishly in these times. If you can afford to, please, by all means. But it's yeah, we have to be very savvy. So just be cognizant of all these things that are around us. Yeah.
I think you've made a salient point there, Sizwe, as well. I think a lot of artists are, right-brained. So the left brain is the one that deals with logic and all of that, and money. And a lot of artists are scared of money or scared of dealing with money. And I think that's something that they need to get past. So they need to educate themselves, find there's lots of online resources just to how to work with money, how to budget. It's really important. Then when you are putting together, are we going to do a show, or are we going to do a film, you can expand it to that level. So I think one, you can't just go, this is my art, this is my creation, and not know its worth and what it is worth and worth to you. And also, I think building then again on that point, we need to get to a place in this country where we stop undercutting the next person. And I know it is because people are hungry, and a job comes and somebody knew their worth and said, I won't do it for that because it means I'm actually paying to get to your job, to do your job for you. Someone else wants to eat that day, so they'll undercut you. But I think if we create a community of artists, we can say, this is the baseline, this is what we'll accept. And there are bodies out there fighting for artist rights, like SAGA, which is the South African Guild of Actors. So it's not expensive to join. I think it's 70 Rand for the year or something. I mean, it's a, for those smokers, it's 2 packets of cigarettes, and you shouldn't be smoking. But priorities, join SAGA and become part of a community of actors, and then you won't have to work for fees that, is slave labor basically, and well below the minimum wage. So if we could stand together. And I see there might have been a note. No, sorry, I thought I could. That's coming, I think, to the funding. We'll talk about funding in our Q&A, which is coming up a little bit later. So yeah, I don't know if I'm preaching here from my perch. Msaka, is your hand up there?
Yo, Sizwe. You know what? You are preaching to me because me, I am the artist, ne? And the artists, they don't like admin. They don't want admin. And guys, that will be our downfall. And I'm not lying to you, because I do community work. I've seen how easy it is that someone would have charged you a price that doesn't even account for their taxi fare, for their data, for So my appeal to colleagues in the art space, whether you're a director or an administrator of a production, please don't pay people cash. Don't pay people who did not submit complete invoices, so that we sort of try and educate each other, because otherwise we are saying it's okay to not account for your life. Like Usis was saying, we're saying it's okay for the artist to not have that spreadsheet that says, for me, from now until end of December, I need this amount of money. A lot of us don't have that. You get a gig, you look at the money, you think 10K is a lot, because you've not budgeted. So let's not enable each other to do that. If you have funding, you need to work with other artists. Please also have measures in place that, people must submit proper invoices. All of that must be done properly. The same way you don't go to a shop and come up with a loaf of bread without actually, went through the till and whatnot, and you get a receipt. So I think there's no university that will come to us and teach us this. We have to actually hold each other accountable. So thank you, Sisu, for bringing that point up. Ne?
And also, I think for young artists out there, in terms of tax, register as a taxpayer. I know that sounds scary, but when you are working for bigger corporations or you do an event, they will tax you. And as a freelance performer, they take off 25% of your money that you've earned. So, and that's a huge amount. If they were going to pay you 10,000, you don't get 10,000 out. You get 7,500 out, let's say. But at the end of the year, when you submit your tax return, you're going to get money back. That's money back in your pocket. So I know it sounds scary, and maybe you don't want the government to know about you, but again, these are the admin side of things. If you can try and make sure that your admin is in place, your brand will be better served, and your career will be easier because of it. And perhaps also, while we're talking about it, I mean, no one wants to think that they're going to get really old one day and my gray hair is showing, but you also need to think about the future. And unfortunately, where we're at, we don't have a stable income. So lots of us don't plan for the future. We don't have no one's going to give us a retirement policy. No one's going to give us medical aid because we all freelance. And those are things that you really need to think about. And I know it's hard when you literally are just trying to make it to the end of the month and not making it to the end of the month. But if you can, when you can, from early on, try and save, whether it's 20 Rand a month that you can put into a unit trust account or something that will just sit there and it will grow, and it will grow with compound interest. So try and be financially savvy. And when you are 60, and although I think I'm going to work until lunch on the day of my funeral, but hopefully when you are 60, there might be a little bit of a nest egg waiting for you, because no one is going to do that for you. And while you're young, you don't need a full medical aid. No one can afford that anyway. But a hospital plan, try look at getting a basic hospital plan. If you are in an accident, or you want to be able to have good healthcare. So it's things like that. If you couldn't, I don't know, find somewhere in that budget of R3.50. I don't know. Anyone, I'm making people laugh. They go, where are we going to find that R3.50? We haven't managed to get Lindo Kuchle back. His load shedding has taken its toll, unfortunately, I think. Right. Any last comments from anyone? Or everyone's looking at me with big eyes. Oh no, there we go. Saka.
Hey, thanks. My last comments though is that although we do live in a capitalist world where money is real, the need for money is real, and we need to work with each other to be able to earn a living, I think we need to also respect that for most of us, the arts is really a calling where even if no one was paying you, you were going to struggle if you don't follow it. So let's keep on creating those spaces where we have this kind of networks. It's okay to go to a jam session if you're a musician and are jamming amongst artists, even if no one is paying you. It will only help you when you get the big paying gig. So I think let's try as much as we can, keep the fire burning. And I know it sounds awkward to say, but let's stop the excuses. There definitely are things that we can do with what we have, and this one is a painful one, hey? But really in South Africa, you have to be okay thinking that no one owes you anything, not even the government. And we don't want to so if you are going to sit and wait for the government who owns you something, then you will wait again, you will wait. So anyway, I mean the platform is here. Some of our contact details, I'm sure, are online. So I think let's do get in touch, as you say, Anitra, that there's importance in terms of allowing yourself to be within like-minded people. And I think don't allow yourself to be isolated. Otherwise, you'll end up just struggling and not being able to pursue what you are passionate about. Thank you.
Thank you. Lebohang, any last thoughts for us? What would you say to yourself starting out?
I think, the one thing I could think about is that, I'm a firm believer. I believe in God, and God helps those who help themselves. So I think also that should be the number one thing, that if you work hard enough, then definitely the gigs will come. Definitely the jobs will come because you're working, unlike being stagnant and not doing anything. So keep working on your art, read books, find connects. There are platforms like this. You can, even on Facebook, I mean, there's a lot of people that have their profile written artists. You can connect with those people everywhere on social media, even within your community. There's a lot of artists, like Msaka was saying, you can just go to a jam session, make the right connections, and then keep working hard. So yeah, I think hard work does pay off. So if you keep working hard, things will come all right. And also with the money aspect, I think every day we watch artists die broke, so we need to question that, and we need to find ways to sustain ourselves and um, make sure that we save a little bit or we invest in something. As an artist, you need to think of yourself as a business as well. I mean, influencers came in and did their thing, and they're killing it. You simply collaborate with a brand and look, instead of you paying, I don't know, SABC millions to do an advert, I can do an advert for you on social media. And people follow people. They don't follow companies. No one follows Doom or or domestos, you know what I mean? People follow people on social media. So think of yourself as a business, and these companies will come to you. And yeah, I think that's how I sustain myself, because for the longest time I was for the movement. I was, I was like, I'm an artist. They don't give us opportunities. Hey, they doing this, they doing that. But I was that. I changed my mind and I became more open-minded about it. And I was like, how are these influencers doing it? And and I was like, oh, okay, I see. So think of other ways and look at other people and how they're doing it, and also find very creative ways of doing it and move with the times. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne. Sizwe, any last thoughts before we go to the Q&A?
Yes, I'm going to use myself as an example. I think this story, yeah, for me, just gives me hope for where I'm going. I started after my matric. I had a few years of doing nothing because I was just so, I don't know, just struggling to find what I want to do and where I want to be. I just knew that I could sing, and I just decided to go to the university, and I studied accounting, just a random thing just to keep me going. And it seemed okay for the first few, and I will not tell you, in my final year, in the second semester, I dropped out because I was gonna kill myself. It was not literally, but like I was just struggling to accept, because I knew what I wanted to do. And I took a huge leap by changing courses, and I started learning music after my business management course. I started learning music literacy, my BMAS, and I could not read music. I could not. I just knew that I could sing, and I cannot tell you the amount of doors that this has opened for me. The circles that I have managed to infiltrate because of the skill that I invested in myself. So I will always preach this to people, where um, don't lose your essence. If you feel that's what you want to do, that's where your calling is, where your satisfaction comes from, where your purpose is. Go there, invest in yourself, take that leap, and just be disciplined. And I guarantee you, God will meet you at the mountain. Just climb up the mountain, He will meet you up there.
Absolutely, Sizwe. I believe that if you follow your heart, if you listen to your gut, when your gut tells you to do something, do it, and then everything will fall into place after that. I'd just like to take a moment. We've actually been toying with this idea for a little while at JATA, and this would be a good place to launch this initiative. It's alongside a friend and a colleague, Owen Lonzar. Some of you might recognize the name. Owen was instrumental in the Waiting in the Wings campaign, which was started as our lockdown hit, and they were responsible for raising hundreds of thousands of rands and feeding artists who could no longer support themselves or their families. So they raised lots of money and sent food vouchers and necessity vouchers out to artists in need. So that was Owen Lonzar, and we were chatting about it and saying we'd like to start something called Connecting Young Creatives. So it's CYC. It will be hosted at JATA, which is in Randburg. And the idea is there to just have a safe space where young creatives can gather, where we will try and have speakers, whether it's to work out what your finances are or how to do a budget, or and we can have like-minded people, because for us, I think that's really important to get these people together. So if you want to put together a film, you might have someone who's, oh, well, I can edit it and I can be in it, I'll direct it, and then we can look at trying to help you find sponsorship or funding, because us older ones in the industry, we need to we have connections and we have networks, and we need to say use us. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to say that is coming up in the pipeline at JATA, connecting young creatives, and we're looking forward to that. Yeah. And on that note, I think we can go over to the Q&A. And at this point, some of our colleagues from the NAC are going to come on, and that's Sponelo Choki and Lebohang Ditswene. So if they want to come and help us facilitate the questions and answers, that would be great.
Thank you, Anitra. Thank you for the insightful thoughts that you have shared as panelists. On the Q&A section, we have about 6 questions. I will give you those questions, and then if we have enough time, the attendees will raise their hands, and then we will give them the platform to ask those questions. The first question is directed to Lebu. It says, hello. This question is for Lebu. Please list 5 funding institutions she knows so we cannot depend on the NAC and the DSEC. Lebu, if you would assist answering that.
Okay, there's Acetage, there's Acetage, okay, you said no NAC, no PAC, there's okay, that's the Department of Arts and Culture. There's sure, I'm just trying to think of 5. It also depends what kind of funding you need, I think if you're going for film, then there's okay, can I come back to the question? I'll just but I know there's Acetage, there's the Khute Institute, I don't know how to pronounce it properly, and I'll just check what others are there for film, but for theater, NAC, DAC, Acetage, the Khute Institute, and many more.
And I think it also depends on your product. What is it that you want to take out there? So you want to focus that, if you are, I don't know, if it's if you could then go say, oh, well, maybe we need to go to transport. So we could look at trucking companies or car companies. You go in that vibe. A lot of the embassies have budgets that they use for outreach programs. So if you can find a way to, we once did a production which we were translating an American Broadway musical into the South African context. So we went to the American embassy and said, this is a good way, we're going to have a collaboration, and they found money for us. So I think look at your product and then try and find where you could get corporate sponsors involved because of what it is that you're trying to say. Yes, and Lebo, you're right. I think it's the Goethe Institute. They're the German, so like I said, there are a lot of international foundations that have money available for work here in South Africa. So try and think outside of the box. Don't immediately go, oh, we'll go to the NAC, or go, and try your luck. All the big companies, the telecommunications companies, they've got massive budgets for sponsorship. And they write that off to tax. So, it can't hurt to pick up the phone and cold call, or try and work out if you know someone who knows someone, because the higher up you go, the more likely you are to get the money. Lebo, is your hand up again, or was that from...
Yes, I was gonna say that also use your internet. I mean, if you can simply Google film funding or theatre funding, then you'll find like a lot of companies listed under there. I just remember there's also the NFVF, there's also the TCI, and so forth, you know. But I think if you use your internet, you could actually get a lot of funding opportunities that are there on the net. And I think also even on Facebook and Instagram, there are people that I mean, if you follow a lot of art, people are sharing information nowadays. So you'll see that a lot of people do share that kind of information, and yeah, there's a lot. Just Google.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks, Lebu and Anita for your insights and answering the questions. The next question, I think it will be directed to you, Mosaka, since you are passionate with education. The attendee is asking if you want to host a workshop to educate local artists and give them certificate at the end, where should I go to make that certificate legitimate and recognized? Mosaka, did you get the question? Hi, Mosaka. Oh, it's frozen. Anitra, maybe you can pitch in and answer that question for us, please. Mosaka is struggling with connectivity.
I think the question of accreditation is a very, very tricky one. To accredit something, you have to go through the NQF, and there are vast reams of paperwork in terms of if you want to have it accredited that is legitimately as a South African diploma or certificate, and that's quite a long, involved process. You have to submit your syllabi. I mean, I know the tertiary education institutions, maybe Sizwe can also come in here. It is a vast process. So if you're offering just a sort of a 3-week course or a 6-week course or 6-month course, I think to get something that is legitimately accredited is very, very hard. I think and maybe Msaka can, when he comes back, if he comes back, can maybe comment on this. What would legitimize your course is then your standing in the community, is then what you have achieved and the work that you have produced. So people would want to come and study, and you could mentor them because of your experience, your life experience, and what you've done. I don't know if I'm making any sense. Msaka, did you hear the question? I think he's still struggling with connectivity. Maybe we can move on to the next question, and then we can always revisit this when Msaka is back with us.
Okay, thanks, Anitra. The next question is directed to Sizwe. Sizwe, the attendee is asking if you plan a tour.
Sorry, load shedding happened. Was it the question about? Was it the question about?
Yeah, he's still having some challenges. We will move on and come back to him. Sizwe, the question is, yes. It says, if you plan a tour for funding at the NAC, for example, do you confirm the location first, or you contact them after you got fund because you may not get it?
Yeah, okay, I see that. I think with any proposal, so it's like doing research. So you'd have to contact your location, get costs, get quotes for accommodation, venues, the people that are going, how much will it cost for this, and then when you get to an organization like the NAC, you just produce a full product. Because even if you don't get it from them, you could take the whole proposal to someone else. So the location and all the people that you want to go to, visa costs, flight costs, all these things need to be taken into consideration. But you will have to put that in a document first and then approach for funding. So you will not have an obligation with the people that you want to go to the location and stuff, because you will just tell them that how much would it cost to hire this theater, for how many days, and we're going to be there with so and so and so, and just then that's how you compile your document, and then you approach the NAC or other organizations for funding. So straight after that. So first, the location and what you want to do and what you want to do, have an objective, put a whole proposal and a financial budget together, and then approach for funding. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Cesar, for your insights. I just want to flag as well that if there's any questions that are related to because I see many questions about the PESP and the current PESP call for applications. The NAC's info account, which is available on our website, will be able to assist you, so that we don't give the panelists questions that they may not be able to answer. Any questions related to the current PESP call, they may be directed to info@nac.org.za. I'm going to move to the next question, which was directed to Musaka, but all the panelists may try and assist since he's experiencing challenges. The question says, oh, you are back. Okay. It says, Musaka, with a specific reference to using art as a tool to enhance educational development for children with learning and challenges, in respect of thinking about an alternative avenue of income, which organization will you suggest approach for partnership or resources?
Okay, thank you for that question. I think first, obviously, we need to establish what kind of institution are you running in which community. So if it's partnerships we are looking for, I know some South African universities are keen in doing this kind of community work. So I know, for example, if it was UCT, they have a social development department where if you're doing that kind of work, they could give some assistance. So you need to check where is it that you are located. You could partner even with the local schools. You could partner with the local schools, could partner with the colleges, because you might find that in the higher education sector, there might be students who would actually benefit partnering with you because of some of their academic projects. In that way, you also then get their expertise to assist you. And then in terms of funding, you would get funding from organizations such as Iloto, for example. But because it's broad, I would say I'm more than happy to engage after the panel discussion. You can drop me a line on Facebook and then we can take it from there. Thanks.
Thank you, Musaka. That sums up the questions that we have here on the Q&A session. I will open the platform for those who want to ask questions verbally here to raise their hands, and then our IT assistant will open your mic, and then you can pose the question to the panelists. We are left with about 4 minutes for the Q&A session. So if you have any question for the panelists, you can raise your hand, and then we will unmute you and give you the platform to ask that question.
And perhaps we could quickly come back to that question of accreditation for Musaka. Maybe he has more insight than I did. I also thought it was just about if they're offering a course, how do they accredit a certificate? And I said that's very hard, but perhaps as you were saying earlier, maybe to partner with someone, to partner with an institution would actually give you more legitimacy than if you were trying to do it yourself.
Yes, thank you, Anitra. I agree. We might also want to contact the department. So there's different levels. In South Africa, we use what we call NQF. So contact the Department of Education, Basic Education, to see at what level would your qualification be, because you are not sure yet if it will be higher education or not. They will then ask for you to submit your curriculum, and then they will give you all of the what do you call it, all of the requirements to be able to benchmark it. It's quite a long process. So you yourself, the who runs the institution, might need to also have some education background to be able to run the education center. But best to check with maybe your closest university if they already have similar projects, to associate with them, and then maybe as time goes, you can then try and branch out on your own. But yeah, it requires a lot of energy, and I don't think it's something that happens in a year. It requires dedicated time to be able to get there. Thanks.
Thank you, Msaka. And I see Tana Mohoka has raised her hand. Tana Mohoka, you can unmute your mic and pose the question to the panelists.
Thank you. I just wanted to find out a little bit more about how to use arts for like community development work, and how do you make a community-based arts program sustainable?
Can I take that one?
Please go ahead.
Sure. Thanks. I contribute on this one because I recently just finished another project which was community centered, and what I found worked for us is to actually partner with, even if it's an organization that has nothing to do with the arts, if it's community centered, at least you would have access to some of the resources, including the audience. You don't need to reinvent the wheel, including some of the facilities, the venue facilities. So in my case, the churches especially, because they are very keen. There's a question of what happens beyond Sunday, so you might want to actually partner with the churches. The school, there's a question of what happens beyond 2 p.m., right? So I would say partner with those, because those are organizations that are not going anywhere, and it makes your profile a bit more credible when you apply later for funding to say, I've partnered with so-and-so. Here is where the kids or the youth that I'm working with is based. It's a place that's identifiable, but also it means you have really community institutions that can vouch for the kind of work you do. So in terms of sustainability, you might find that someone does not know you. Maybe I want to give money or something to the work you are doing, but I don't know you, but I know the church you are working with, or I know the school that you're working with. It makes it a bit easier in terms of sustainability. So you feed off their reputation, but they also feed off the kind of work you do, if that makes sense.
Thank you, everyone. I think we are exactly to quarter past 1, which is the closing time of the webinar. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you, Anitra, for assisting us with facilitating this event and sharing your much needed insights and thoughts, and to our panelists as well. On behalf of the NAC management and the council, would like to take this opportunity to thank you so much for the much needed insights that you have shared. The event wouldn't have been possible without you. I would also request you that you share your social media platforms, or social media pages, or whatever that you have, social media handles, social media handles, so that we can populate it to the attendees who would like to engage with you on a personal level and assist, and that you can assist them for whatever that they might ask. Also, I would like to also take this opportunity to remind all art practitioners that have attended here that the NAC has a current PES 3 call for application, which has opened on the 20th of June, and it's closing on the 29th of July. So I encourage everyone to please apply. This invitation is open for craft, dance, literature, multidiscipline, music, theater, and visual art. So all of these disciplines are welcome to apply. And the main purpose of this is to create jobs. So all projects that aim to create jobs will be prioritized. On behalf of the council, I would also like to thank the attendees for taking their time to attend this event. And with that being said, I would like to thank you all. If panelists have any comments or things to share, this will be the platform. From there, we we'll close the event. Is there anything that you would like to share, panelists?
I'd just like to say thank you so much to Spinello, to you for all your hard work in putting this together, and to all your colleagues at the NAC, the tech support for talking us through it, because it was quite scary for some of us. So thank you so much to you, and it's been an absolute pleasure being involved in this, and I hope that we've been able to make some difference in someone's life and hopefully inspire someone to continue, because who knows, we might have the next William Shakespeare or praise poet or someone that's going to be amazing, and you need to have this platform. So, and thank you to the NAC for the platform and for the support for the arts.
Much appreciated.